Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Okay, 1 minute. Yeah, who would like to read?
I will read,
Please,
Anur
please,
bhai.
please go
Okay.
ahead.
Yeah. The mental being spoken of by the Upanishad is not part of the mental nervous physical composite. It is the Manomaya Purusa, Prana, Sat-
Sharira.
Prana, Prana Sarira Neta,
Sharira.
Sharira Neta, the mental being, leader of the life and body. It could not be so described It could not be so described if it were part of the composite, nor can the composite or part of it be the Purusha, for the composite is composed of Prakriti. It is described as Manomaya by the Upanishad because the psychic being is behind the veil, and man, being the mental being in life and body, lives in his mind and not in his psychic. So to him, the Manomaya Purusha is the leader of the life and body, of the psychic behind, supporting the whole. He is not aware or dimly aware in his best moments. The psychic is represented in man by the Prime Minister, the Manomaya, itself being a mild constitutional king. It is the Manomaya to whom Prakriti refers for assent to her actions. But still, the statement of the Upanishad gives only the apparent truth of the matter, valid for man and the human stage only. For in the animal, it would be rather the Pranamaya Purusha, that is the Neta, leader of mind and body.
Next one also.
Purusha Prakriti is the Shara Purusha. Standing back from it is the Akshara Purusha. Ego sense and Purusha are two quite different things. Ego sense is a mechanism of Prakriti. Purusha is the conscious being. The psychic being evolves, so it is not the immutable. The psychic being is especially the soul of the individual evolving in the manifestation, the individual Prakriti, and taking part in the evolution. It is that spark of the divine fire that grows behind the mind, vital and physical, as the psychic being until it is able to transform the Prakriti of ignorance into a Prakriti of knowledge. These things are not in the Gita, but we cannot limit our knowledge by the points in the Gita.
Right. Thank you, Himanshuji.
Thank you.
So last time also, I mean, for quite some time, a few months, we have been delving into psychic being, soul spark, and Jivatman. And this portion, which we are reading from the letters right now, is for psychic being. There are a few people who have joined these classes for the first time today. So this started off as a essays on the Gita series, where we were reading, I think we had read till the Creed of the Aryan Fighter, and we had reached the verses 2.11 to 2.30 of the Gita, which speak of the Atman, right? But the Gita only mentions the word Atman. It speaks of the immutable, indestructible, basically the immutable, etc., that aspect of the self. But Sri Aurobindo speaks about two more. That is what is called in Sri Aurobindo system as central being. In integral yoga, the terminology that he uses for that aspect of the self, which is our true self, which does not change, which is unborn, which is undying, obviously, because it is unborn, etc. Several times you have referred to the shloka of the Gita, 2.20. Najayate mriyate va kadachit, nayam bhutva bhavita va na bhuyah, ajo nityah shashvatoyam purano, na hanyate hanyamane sharire. It is not born, it does not die. न जायते म्रियते वा कदाचित नायम भूत्वा भविता वा न भूयः. It is not that it was there in the past and it won't be in the future. It was in the past also and it will be in the future also. Ajo nityah shashvatoyam purano. It is unborn, it is eternal, it is forever, it is the ancient one. Na purano, na hanyate hanyamane sharire. It does not perish with the perishing of the body. But further on, when we read the shlokas of the Gita till 2.30, we realize that it is speaking of the unchanging self, and that is a sort of stumbling block for many traditional people when they reach Sri Aurobindo. What is the psychic being that he's speaking of, etc., etc. So we had branched on to the letters on yoga to get more clarity on the other two terms which Sri Aurobindo has given, other than the entity which the Gita shlokas refer to. That is called the psychic being, which in the language of the Gita in the 7th chapter is called Para Prakritir Jiva Bhuta. It comes in the 7th chapter. 7.5 and 7.6 वहाँ पे आता है. And the third thing which he calls the soul spark. ठीक है. The recordings of those are there. It will not be, appropriate to say about them again, because already we have covered that in so many sessions, right? So that is basically where we are at. We are reading the part on the his letters on the psychic being right now. And though some of the ideas may be repetitive for those who have been in the sessions earlier, but here and there, even in these two sentences, we come across such sentences, such phrases, such turns of phrase, if you might want to put it that way, which give us further richness, further nuanced idea of this extremely important subject. Unless we know who we are ourselves, what can we do in life, right? Last time we had said, to summarize sort of, who are we? We had quoted 15.7 from the Gita. Mamai vamsho jiva loke jiva bhutah sanatanaha. It is an eternal portion of me which becomes a jiva in the world of jivas. The word jiva essentially means individual, right? So we are all an eternal portion of the eternal. Hum eternal hain, right? Like that. So this is just a small background. Anybody जो पिछले मतलब जो आज पहली बार ज्वाइन कर रहे हैं, do they have any question or any doubt in what I have said so far regarding the Bhumika before I begin this? Anybody? Feel free, please. There is no very formal atmosphere in this class. It's quite informal. Any doubt, anything? Anybody? No? Okay. So the mental being, somebody wants to say something?
Yeah, Namaste Bhaiya. So I
Namaste.
have a question about the difference between Jivatma and the psychic being. How can we experience that?
Okay, so fundamentally, the Jivatman is the entity, it is our true self, our true being. Okay, it precedes the manifestation. Even when the manifestation was not there, it was there. Okay, it is unchanging. Okay, and when it comes into manifestation, then it is called a psychic being. उसमें मैं और डिटेल में आऊंगा, but basically it is that which is unchanging. It does not come down into the manifestation, and from above the manifestation it presides over it. Okay, अध्यक्ष, अक्ष माने आंख, अधि मतलब ऊपर, तो जो ऊपर से देखता है उसको अध्यक्ष कहते हैं. द इंग्लिश वर्ड इज प्रेसिडेंट, द वर्बल फॉर्म बीइंग प्रिसाइड, right? That is the Jivatman, or what Sri Aurobindo calls the central being. It is unchanging. Fundamentally आप ये समझ लो, it is your true being. That is who you are fundamentally. Okay, it does not change, it is ever the same. How to link to it with our experience of life this so far? There is something in us which we feel at times which is unchanging behind all the changes that we experience in our consciousness. It is that unchanging entity which is the central being. Okay? Okay. Now that central being or Jivatman sends into our system something called soul spark, psychic entity, and that soul spark or psychic entity evolves a psychic being. This psychic being supports the manifestation. So the pair of words for the difference between the two entities, the psychic being and the central being, is the first one, the central being, it presides from above. Okay, it does not come down, whereas the psychic being is part of the manifestation. It comes down into the manifestation. It is part of our human system. It is there in our heart cave and it supports it. So the one presides from above and the other supports from below. This is the essential difference. The second is the psychic being is something which is growing from life to life. So it is something changing, whereas the central being does not change, it is ever the same. From the point of view of evolution, what is important is the psychic being. But yes, when the full realization comes, we have read all those letters in the previous sessions, then the psychic being and the central being fuses. And the psychic being knows that it itself has come from the central being or Jivatman only. And it is also basically an unchanging eternal portion of the eternal. Is that clear?
Yes,
Sanjeev
yes,
bhai?
Bhaiya. Yeah, Bhaiya. Thank you.
Okay, okay. The mental being spoken, so the question is not there, so we have to kind of make do. Sanjeev bhai, I mean, just to say, इसका पूरा YouTube पे भी डाल दिया है, so you want to go
Okay.
through, तो आपको थोड़ा ढूंढना पड़ेगा, उसमें titles वगैरह नहीं है, sorry, that I have not
Sure.
been able to do, but उसमें आपको total clarity मिल जाएगी. We go very slowly, very deliberately. Anybody has any question, any doubt, even anything to share, ठीक है? That is basically the tenor of these sessions. ओके तो
Okay.
आपको उसमें एक थरो उसमें कवरेज मिल जाएगा इस चीज का, राइट?
Okay.
Okay, okay. So the mental being spoken of by the Upanishad is not part of the mental, nervous, physical composite. Composite मतलब compose जिस चीज से. It is the manomaya purushah prana sharira neta, the mental being, leader of the life and body. So the mental being के लिए the Sanskrit phrase is manomaya purushah. Okay, spoken of by the Upanishad. The Upanishad which he is referring to is the Mundaka Upanishad. Several times on the WhatsApp group for these classes, I have shared the link to that. I'll share it again because some people have joined anew. They will not be able to see the previous chats like happens in Telegram, right? So the
I
mental
have done
beings.
it, Anmol bhai, right now.
What? Actually, you have done it. Thank you, Dhaval bhai. Thank you so much. This helps. Varna, okay. The mental being spoken of by the Upanishad. So now when Sri Aurobindo says Upanishad like this, he basically means the body of Upanishads taken as a whole. Okay. Primarily he says there are 12 major Upanishads. Isha, Kena, Katha, Mundaka, Mandukya, Prashna, Aitareya, Taittiriya, Chandogya, Brihadaranyaka, Shveta, Shvatara. And the 12th one, he does not explicitly say the name. At places you think it is Kaushitaki. Kaivalya ke upar he has written both in Sanskrit as well as in English. So I would tend to believe it is the Kaivalya. But Upanishad means basically this body of the Upanishads, major and minor दोनों होते हैं, कुल मिला के 108 and more. But the major Upanishads are 12. Okay. So the mental being spoke, and herein he means the Mundaka Upanishad. कहीं और किसी Upanishad में आया होगा that I don't remember, but this phrase certainly comes in the Mundaka, right? So the mental being spoken of by the Upanishad is not part of the mental, nervous, physical composite. Here nervous is a substitute for the word vital. It can be taken as a sort of substitute. तो वो mental, vital, physical composite का part नहीं है. Why? Because this is prakriti. That clarification will come further on in the letter. It is the manomaya purushah prana sharira neta, the mental being, leader of the life and body. Okay. It could not be so described if it were part of the composite. Composite मतलब जो किसी चीजों से संगठित है, ठीक है? And the Purusha is not composed of anything. The Purusha is self-existent. This is the fundamental difference between Purusha and Prakriti. Prakriti is something which is made up from the elements of nature basically. Purusha is the self-existent being. Okay, we will try to get more clarity on this as we read this letter further. It could not be so described if it were part of the composite very clearly. ठीक है, ये पुरुषा या being की ये definition है. Okay, I'll read slowly. Nor can the composite or part of it be the purusha. नहीं हो सकता है. For the composite is composed of prakriti. Is composed of prakriti. इस पे हम मनोमया पुरुषा के ऊपर again for those who are joining today थोड़ा सा बोलूंगा. It is described as manomaya by the Upanishad because the psychic being is behind the veil and man, being the mental being in the life and body, lives in his mind and not in his psychic. Man, being the mental being in the life and body, lives in his mind mostly. Most men don't even live in the mind, right? They live in their vital or their physical, right? But not in his psychic. The psychic is something which has to be found out and extracted and dug in. Basically we have to dig within ourselves and discover that psychic being and bring it forward. Herein I might say this, not to say that all human beings who are born today are from their birth governed by psychic being, not like that, but yes, there is a statement of mother. Again, mother is speaking from her level and her consciousness. Sometime in the late 60s, 60s में कभी है, exact मुझे याद नहीं आ रहा, wherein she says that the time of the ego is over. It's a very important sentence, by which essentially what she means is that, you know, earlier जैसे होता था कि for the purpose of individualization, ego was absolutely necessary. But now this statement she is making after 56 and, you know, after their whole lifelong tapasya, etc. So now in the universe, things have gotten changed in such a way, things have evolved in such a way that it is possible for a person from quite early on to be organized around the psychic. वो ego की जरूरत ही ना हो. हाँ, निरुपमा जी. Nirupama?
Yes.
Yes.
So you
You can
mentioned
switch
that.
on your this thing video, it will be nice. If
Okay.
not, then no problem also. हाँ,
I
बोलिए.
would prefer not to.
No problem, बोलिए.
Okay. So you mentioned that it's not always the psychic that governs us from birth, right?
No, by default it doesn't.
Um,
See, unless
does
you
it
are
not
tell me.
does it not consent or sanction to our path? I
It
mean,
does. It does. It does.
the vital or
Yes.
physical ups and
Consent is
downs.
okay. So the difference, madam, you have to think is between the words consent and the word govern. ठीक है? अभी जिसमें आगे जाके आएगा, the words will come prime minister and constitutional king, right? So though the king is the king in his true nature and everything and status and everything, but who is he? He's a constitutional king. तो उसकी चल नहीं रही है. He has to listen to what the prime minister is saying. So the Manomaya Purusha is like the prime minister, whereas the psychic being is like the king. So even though it is the king, until the evolution of that particular individual happened to that extent that the psychic can dominate the mind and vital, etc., till then it is more of a consent. It is not governing. Consent और govern में फर्क है ना. कंसेंट का मतलब कि मैं एग्री करता हूं, मैं मान लेता हूं, बट गवर्न का मतलब है कि जो मैं चाह रहा हूं एग्जैक्टली वही होता है. There is a difference between the two.
So my question is, why does it have to consent to a roundabout way?
Your question is, why does it consent to in a roundabout way? Okay, the answer
Yes.
for that is actually that the evolution is a process which goes from ignorance to knowledge and then from knowledge to greater knowledge. So this is how things are. Actually, this question ultimately comes to this, that why did the divine involve himself and become the inconscient in the first place? So that is a hide and seek which the divine is playing with himself. And again, uske answers hain ki that all knowledgeable thing, that omniscient entity, omnipotent entity, this is what is called the adventure of consciousness on the first page of Savitri. वो फिर उसमें जाना पड़ेगा. Do you understand what I mean? What I'm referring to?
Yes.
You understand? So it's basically the adventure of consciousness which the soul has taken upon itself. That is the answer. एक इसका आंसर मतलब इसका जो लाइन है एडवेंचर ऑफ कॉन्शियसनेस, दैट कम्स ऑन द फर्स्ट पेज ऑफ सावित्री. ठीक है. एग्जैक्ट आंसर जो आपको इसका मिलेगा, दैट विल बी पेज 454 पे सावित्री के, वेयर दिस सेक्शन बिगिंस. ओ सोल इट इज नहीं, ओ सोल इट इज वो नहीं है. O mortal who complainst of death and fate, accuse none of the harms thyself hast called. This troubled world thou hast chosen for thy home. Thou art thyself the author of thy pain.
Author of thy pain.
Yes. तो वहां से शुरू होकर के वो जो 2 पेज का सेक्शन है, when you read that multiple times again and again, you will understand that it is a choice which the soul has taken upon itself. That is the portion from where this clarity comes.
Okay. Thank you.
Welcome. Right. So it is described as Manomaya by the Upanishad because the psychic being is behind the veil, and man, being the mental life in the life and body, lives in his mind and not in his psychic. So to him, the Manomaya Purusha is the leader of the life and body. The real leader is the psychic being, but it is not able to assert itself till a certain time. Or Sri Aurobindo says it very clearly that without sadhana, the psychic being is not able to come forward. साइकिक बीइंग को आगे लाने के लिए, साइकिक बीइंग को अपनी लाइफ को डोमिनेट कराने के लिए, some kind of sadhana has to be undergone. If you find people who are already governed by their psychic being, that means that evolution has happened in their previous lives. They've already done the sadhana and they are born like this, right? It's like that. So to him, the Manomaya Purusha is the leader of the life and body, of the psychic behind, supporting the whole. Okay, he is not aware or dimly aware in his best moments. Okay. Now here, चलो पहले अगला वाला पढ़ देता हूं, then I will connect that Manomaya with the central being and all. The psychic is represented in man by the prime minister, the Manomaya, itself being a mild constitutional king. So this is there in Britain. So monarch is the head of the system, but it is basically the prime minister who does everything, right? Itself being a mild constitutional king, mild. उसकी ज्यादा चलती नहीं है. He has to obey what is there in the constitution. It's more of a consent, nodding basically. It is the Manomaya to whom Prakriti refers for assent to her actions. That is why the first thing that has to be done is to have in that sense, a clear mental being and a clear mental governance of the vital and body's movements. वो सत्व गुण की वृद्धि, if we speak in the language of the gunas. Without that, it's not possible to have a smooth evolution. It is the Manomaya to whom Prakriti refers to assent for her actions. But still, the statement of the Upanishad gives only the apparent truth of the matter. Valid for man and the human stage only, for in the animal, it would be rather the Pranamaya Purusha, that is the Neta, leader of mind and body. So, a couple of things here. So obviously the questioner has sent this sentence to Sri Aurobindo कि मुंडक उपनिषद में तो लिखा है मनोमय पुरुषः प्राण शरीर नेता. What is this Chaitya Purusha or this psychic being that you are talking about? Most likely the question is of this kind, right? So that is the explanation which he is giving. And then what he is saying, कि at the animal level, it would be the Pranamaya Purusha which would be the Neta, which would be the leader, right? So for example, and again, that whole theory of evolution of Sri Aurobindo, man is a transitional being. He is not final. Beyond man, the supramental ranges wait, right? ये SS divine and human में आता है. Man is a transitional being, this sentence. In the life divine, what does he say? I don't remember exact verbatim. I will paste that. It is a wonderful sentence to even have verbatim in your mind. Just as the animal is a living laboratory in which nature has worked out man, living laboratory. The adjective used there is living, merely life. Just as the animal is a living laboratory in which nature has worked out man, it may well be that man is a thinking and living laboratory in which she is working out the divine man, the superman. I think this comes in the very first chapter of the Life Divine, the human aspiration, right? So then what happens? If the Manomaya is everything, then what about the next thing which is going to come after man? उसमें leader कौन होगा? उसमें तो Manomaya leader नहीं होगा ना? उसमें तो it would be the psychic being with the influx of the Vijnanamaya and Anandamaya, that would be the Neta and not the Manomaya, right? This is a very basic point. Yes, please.
We read in the essays on the Gita, mind-informed body. That is what
mind-informed body simply means कि आपका जो even body है उसके अंदर एक मेंटल कॉन्शियसनेस का इन्फ्यूजन हो गया है. इनफॉर्म का मतलब यहां पे आप समझ रहे हैं कि वो उस फॉर्म के अंदर एंटर कर, इट हैज एंटर्ड इनसाइड द फॉर्म. दैट इज व्हाट द वर्ड फॉर्म मींस हियर.
So wouldn't it mean that the Manomaya is Prakriti is seeking approval of the Manomaya in a mind-informed body?
It means that, yes. Mind-informed body is basically to describe your body. कि आपका जो body है ना, इसके अंदर केवल फिजिकल नहीं है, ठीक है? इसके अंदर वाइटल एलिमेंट भी है और इसके अंदर एक मेंटल एलिमेंट भी है. देयर इज दैट थिंग कॉल्ड इंस्टिंक्ट इन द बॉडी ना, दैट इज द प्रेजेंस ऑफ द मेंटल कॉन्शियसनेस इन द बॉडी इटसेल्फ. उसके खुद के अंदर एक चेतना है शरीर में. द ह्यूमन टिश्यू और द ह्यूमन सेल इज नॉट लाइक द एनिमल सेल और द प्लांट सेल. there is the mental element already present in the human cell and tissue.
So in that sense, the word used here is relatable of the mild constitutional king, right? For the mind-informed body.
Mild हाँ बोलिए.
Can we equate it 1-to-1?
No. By mild constitutional king, he is referring to the psychic being, ठीक है? कि वो अभी एक simply एक king है, but it is a
He's
mild
ref-
constitutional king. It is not able to exercise its sovereignty. It has to listen to what the prime minister is saying, which is the mind, which is the Manomaya
He's
Purusha.
saying here the psychic is represented in man by the prime minister.
So the prime minister is the Manomaya, and the mild constitutional king is the psychic.
Okay, yeah, it's
Now
yeah.
you got it.
Okay.
वो sentence construction थोड़ा वैसा है.
Construction में थोड़ा हाँ हाँ
Exactly.
got it.
See, one has to understand that this is written sometime in the 1930s. It's almost
Yeah.
100 years ago. ठीक है? Language evolves, and this is slightly maybe Victorian English. You know, वो थोड़ा सा पुराना English है. So one has to be
After prime minister is defining the Manomaya.
yes, exactly.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
psychic is represented in man by the prime minister, the Manomaya. ठीक है? Itself means the psychic itself being a mild constitutional king.
Yeah.
Is that clear? Okay, one thing more is remaining.
Yeah. So in that sense, can we say that the mind-informed body then is the prime minister? Equate it that way in that sense, because for every sattvic
When you
person,
say mind-informed body, you are
हाँ.
referring to the Prakriti, you are referring to what he has called the composite. Because mind-informed body में mind-informed adjective, the
अच्छा,
body is
अच्छा,
the noun, right? So you are only referring to the body. Body is part of the Prakriti. It is
हाँ,
not the
so
Purusha, it is not the being.
okay. Now
Yeah.
it makes now it's
Makes sense?
it makes sense. ठीक है.
Okay.
Yeah, because now it makes sense. Mind-informed body हो जाता है जो what he's saying the composite. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. It is the mental, nervous, physical composite. You could use this phrase, mental, nervous, physical composite, synonymously with your phrase, which you are referring to, mind-informed body. वो एक ही बात है. Okay. Now, Manomaya Purusha जो है, to link to Sanjeev Bhai's question at the beginning of the session, कि क्या connection है इन सब में, it's also a good reminder for refreshing for everybody. So the Jivatman, okay, the central being, which is the unchanging thing, that when it presides over a manifestation, it sends this psychic entity into the terrestrial system. Okay, terrestrial में इसलिए बोल रहा हूँ because initially the forms through which it is manifesting are plant form या animal form. ठीक है? Human form comes later. So let's then मतलब human stage की अगर बात करें तो, so when the central being, the Jivatman, which presides when it sends, और वो एक ही चीज है, there is no real difference as such. ये नहीं सोचना चाहिए कि central being और psychic being अलग है, नहीं, वो एक ही चीज के तीन अलग अलग फॉर्म है. ये वेरी क्लियरली पहले लेटर में हमने पढ़ा था जब हमने लेटर्स ऑन योगा में आए थे. देयर आर 3 डिफरेंट फॉर्म्स फॉर द सेम एंटिटी. देयर इज नो डिफरेंस, राइट? सो दिस सेंट्रल बीइंग, when it comes down into our system to support the human manifestation, it is there as a psychic entity. उसके लिए जो synonyms यूज किए हैं शिव बंधु ने, soul spark और psychic entity और simply psyche, PSYCHE करके, right? Then it develops a psychic personality or a soul personality or a psychic being around itself, which gathers experience from life to life, gains in strength, and a time comes when it is able to assert itself and take the human journey towards its true goal, which is the divine, right? तो अब साइकिक बीइंग तक तो बात समझ में आ गई कि सेंट्रल बीइंग जो है पहले वो साइकिक एंटिटी बन के हमारे सिस्टम में आया, फिर इस साइकिक एंटिटी ने एक साइकिक पर्सनालिटी अपनी तरफ बिल्ड करी, एंड मदर सेज कि साइकिक एंटिटी और साइकिक पर्सनालिटी में essentially there is no difference, practically there is no difference. There are, mother even says there are 2 names for the same thing, something like this she says, right? Further on, ये जो चैत्य पुरुषा है, this psychic being, according to the plane of consciousness, it sort of projects at the Annamaya level, the Annamaya Purusha, at the Pranamaya level, the Pranamaya Purusha, at the Manomaya level, the Manomaya Purusha. So it is that one Purusha, केवल एक ही वो जो पुरुष है, और essentially अगर हम पुरुष के उसमें जाए, पुरुष एकमात्र एक ही है. It is the same Purusha who is within you and within me and within everybody else. देहे अस्मिन् पुरुषः परः. This is a phrase of the Gita. इस देह में it is that supreme Purusha. वही सुप्रीम पुरुषा जब एक इंडिविजुअल फॉर्म अज्यूम करता है, तो इन द ह्यूमन दिस थिंग इट इज कॉल्ड चैत्य पुरुषा और साइकिक बीइंग, और जब तक वो मेंटल स्टेज पे है इट इज कॉल्ड द मनोमय पुरुषा, बट द पुरुषा इज द सेम. Is that clear? So this is how the connection is built between the Manomaya Purusha and that true and absolutely true self of us, which is called the psychic being. कि the Manomaya is sort of एक जगह शिव बंधु ये कहते हैं कि साइकिक प्रोजेक्ट करता है, एक जगह शिव बंधु ये कहते हैं कि जो मनोमया पुरुष है वो उसी सेंट्रल बीइंग का उसी जीवात्मन का रिप्रेजेंटेटिव है. बट बेसिकली द मनोमय पुरुषा इज द रिप्रेजेंटेटिव in the mental consciousness of the true Purusha, our true individual, our true individuality. Okay, psychic being is the thing which is governing the whole evolution from behind, like this. ये थोड़ा सा flexibility होना चाहिए, but basically it is the same Purusha assuming different poises according to the level of maturity or level of evolution of the soul. Is that clear? Anybody has any doubt in this? Please tell right now. ये मैं सब पहले कवर कर चुका था, बट सिंस देयर आर 2 or 3 people new today, इसलिए मैंने ये चीज बोली है. If not, then I can move to the next one.
I have one question about the Monomaya Purusha. What is the actual role of Monomaya Purusha if it is a part of the psychic being?
No, it's not part. It is not part. वो उससे प्रोजेक्ट हुआ. आप कह रहे हैं कि उसका रोल क्या है अगर वो उसी का पार्ट है तो?
हाँ.
उसका रोल है टू गवर्न द वाइटल एंड बॉडी. साइकिक का टाइम आने में टाइम लगेगा. So till such time, जब तक साइकिक बीइंग अपने आप को पूरी तरह, यू कैन से इट दिस वे, कि साइकिक बीइंग जो है या जो एवोल्यूशन है वो पहले मनोमय पुरुष के थ्रू हो रहा है. इट इज द मनोमय पुरुषा which is the leader and it is responsible for carrying the evolution forward, right? But a time has to come when this prime minister has to hand over control to the true sovereign which is the psychic being. तो वो दोनों डिस्टिंक्ट हैं. ठीक है, जो मैंने उनकी एकत्व बताया है वो एकदम हाईएस्ट दृष्टिकोण से बताया कि अल्टीमेटली पुरुष एक ही है. अगर आपको आपके मनोमय पुरुष का भी अनुभव हो जाए, यू हैव ग्लिम्प्स्ड द पुरुष. ऑफ कोर्स द ग्लिम्प्स विल बी मच मोर पावरफुल if you glimpse the psychic being itself or the central being itself. But even if you have glimpsed that mental witness completely, wherein you are simply witnessing the movements of your mind as something distinct from yourself, prakriti alag, purusha alag, it can be a very powerful and liberating experience. Is that clear?
Okay, yes, thank you.
The psychic being brings bhakti, it brings self-giving, etc. And to the extent that the manomaya purusha is under the influence of the psychic being, that self-giving and that bhakti, etc. will be there in the individual, right?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else has any doubt, question, sharing anything? No? Okay, we'll go to the next letter. I hope कि इसमें और कुछ uncovered नहीं रह गया है. Yeah. Okay. Next. Now this letter, it seems, जो पहला वाला letter था, that was some quotation from Upanishad was given. This one, it seems the question involved quotations from the disciple or questioner from the Gita, because इसमें जो terms हैं वो गीता के terms हैं. ठीक है? Yeah. So Purusha Prakriti is the Shara Purusha. Standing back from it is the Akshara Purusha. One second. Ego sense and Purusha are two quite different things. Ego sense is a mechanism of Prakriti. Purusha is the conscious being. The psychic being evolves, so it is not the immutable. The psychic being is especially the soul of the individual, evolving in the manifestation, the individual Prakriti, and taking part in the evolution. It is that spark of the divine fire that grows behind, the mind, vital and physical, as the psychic being, until it is able to transform the Prakriti of ignorance into a Prakriti of knowledge. These things are not in the Gita, but we cannot limit our knowledge by the points in the Gita, right? So पहली बात तो कि if we branched off from Gita to this, then we are getting knowledge which is not there in the Gita, right? That last sentence makes it absolutely clear. These things are not in the Gita, and we cannot limit our knowledge by the points in the Gita. Sometimes in the Hindu mind this tendency is there. What is there that is not in the Gita? और बहुत लंबे टाइम तक वो टेंडेंसी रहती है, right? So one has to widen oneself and to open and receive the even completer knowledge which Sri Aurobindo and Mother have given.
Anmol bhai, this is a very popular belief.
That's why I'm saying this. Even I have had this. अभी भी मेरे अंदर कहीं ना कहीं वो रह जाता है. अब तो ऑलमोस्ट खत्म हो गया. बट ये एक बहुत बड़ा ऑब्स्टिकल है. मेरे फ्रेंड्स है भाई, गीता में तो किसी चेंजिंग, वो तो कहते हैं कि वो आत्मा तो कभी चेंज ही नहीं करती, तो फिर साइकिक बीइंग कहाँ से आ गया? But
नहीं, because people do not know about Sri Aurobindo. That is the big problem.
Exactly. And well, we should not go preaching about Sri Aurobindo, but अगर पता है, we can share a certain section आजकल. हाँ,
completeness तो चाहिए ना.
देखिए, जिसका जब अंदर आंतरिक परिपक्वता आ जाएगी, या उसकी डेस्टिनी या उसका एवोल्यूशन उसको उस पॉइंट पे ले आया है, हाउएवर विच वे यू पुट इट, राइट। वो मतलब जो भी आपके प्रारब्ध वगैरह था, जब वो उतना आपका घट चुका है, बेसिकली रीच द पॉइंट वेर यू आर रेडी फॉर दैट कंप्लीटर नॉलेज, तो आपका श्री अरबिंदो वाला जर्नी ऑटोमेटिकली शुरू होगा। बिकॉज नथिंग एल्स एक्सेप्ट श्री अरबिंदो कैन गिव यू द कंप्लीट नॉलेज ऑफ स्पिरिचुअलिटी। कोई दे ही नहीं सकता, मेरे को तो आज तक कोई नहीं मिला जो दे सके, राइट। एनीवे, सो
Completely agree, yeah.
हाँ, so we cannot limit our knowledge by the points in the Gita. अब हम उस पे आते हैं. So the Gita speaks of 3 Purushas and 2 Prakritis. The 3 Purushas के नाम उसमें हैं क्षरा, mutable, अक्षरा, immutable, and uttama or purushottama, the highest or supreme. This comes in the 15th chapter of the Gita, जिसका टाइटल है पुरुषोत्तम योग. वर्स नंबर 16 से शुरू होता है वो. द्वाविमौ पुरुषौ लोके क्षरश्चाक्षर एव च क्षरः सर्वाणि भूतानि कूटस्थोक्षर उच्यते उत्तमः पुरुषस्त्वन्यः परमात्मेत्युदाहृतः यो लोकत्रयमाविश्य बिभर्त्यव्यय ईश्वरः यस्मात् क्षरम् अतीतोऽहम् अक्षरादपि चोत्तमः अतोऽस्मि लोके वेदे च प्रथितः पुरुषोत्तमः. ऐसे करके फिर 2 और वर्सेस हैं. आई डेलिबरेटली सेड 3 वर्सेस इन कंटिन्यूटी इन संस्कृत, उसका थोड़ा इफेक्ट आता है संस्कृत का, राइट. सो पुरुष प्रकृति इज द, अब उसने पूछा है पुरुष प्रकृति क्या होता है, उसके दिमाग में एक क्वेश्चन आया होगा, राइट. दिस इज समवॉट अ प्रॉब्लम विद लेटर्स ऑल्सो, कि किसी के दिमाग में कोई ऐसा क्वेश्चन आया जो हमारे दिमाग में नहीं आया, तो फिर हम क्यों पढ़ें. बट देन अगेन बाय विद अ सीरियस स्टडी ऑफ द लेटर्स, बहुत सारे फाइन पॉइंट्स और न्यूएंसेस और एक तरह की रिचनेस आती है हमारी अंडरस्टैंडिंग में. मेनी मेनी प्रैक्टिकल पॉइंट्स आर डेल्ट इन द लेटर्स, जो शायद श्री अरबिंदो की किसी और बुक में हमको नहीं मिलेगा. सो दिस इज द ग्रेट एडवांटेज ऑफ रीडिंग द लेटर्स ऑन योगा. ठीक है. सो पुरुष प्रकृति इज द क्षर पुरुष. क्षर माने म्यूटेबल, चेंजिंग, उसको मल्टीपल भी बोलते हैं. सो द वर्ड्स म्यूटेबल एंड मल्टीपल आर यूज्ड फॉर दैट, फॉर द क्षर पुरुष. जो वर्ड है उसमें, हाँ, standing back from it is the akshara purusha. Akshara means immutable. Purusha prakriti is the kshara purusha. Standing back from it is the akshara purusha. Ego sense and purusha are 2 quite different things. Very clearly, ego sense is a mechanism of prakriti. Purusha is the conscious being. ये गीता में कहाँ आता है? It comes in the 7th chapter. जब वहां पे वो अष्टधा प्रकृति की बात करते हैं. 7.4 इज द वर्स. भूमिरापो नलो वायुः खम मनो बुद्धिरेव च अहंकार इति यम में भिन्नाः प्रकृतिर अष्टधा. सो द 8-fold प्रकृति, द 8-fold लोअर नेचर इज डिस्क्राइब्ड इन द गीता एज द पंच महाभूत और द महाभूतानी, एज इट इज कॉल्ड इन द 13th चैप्टर. और उसके अलावा मन, बुद्धि और अहंकार. अहंकार का लिटरल मीनिंग क्या होता है? आई डू. अहम माने आय, कार मतलब डू, क्री धातु से आता है, जिससे कर्म आता है, कृति आता है, एटसेट्रा, क्रिया आता है, राइट. अहंकार लिटरली दैट इज व्हाट इट मींस, आई डू, राइट. सो ईगो सेंस, अहंकार एंड पुरुष आर 2 क्वाइट डिफरेंट थिंग्स. ईगो सेंस इज अ मैकेनिज्म ऑफ, जस्ट 1 सेकेंड. ईगो सेंस इज अ मैकेनिज्म ऑफ प्रकृति, पुरुषा इज द कॉन्शियस बीइंग. ये जो वोकैबुलरी है पुरुषा और प्रकृति की, दिस कम्स फ्रॉम द Sankhya philosophy, and the Gita takes as its aim to synthesize Sankhya, Yoga and Vedanta, which it does wonderfully. Somebody was saying something.
Can you dwell a little more on the first sentence? Because the Purusha Prakriti, now see, Purusha is the being. So
वो उसका
here
मतलब ऐसे नहीं लेना है आपको, आपको लेना है पुरुषा in प्रकृति.
So I was about to say that this is the Prakriti of the Purusha. ऐसे लेना पड़ेगा इसको.
नहीं,
is the Kshara Purusha.
The part of the Purusha which is there in the Prakriti. अच्छा, here I must say कि गीता की ये वाली जो टर्मिनोलॉजी है, ठीक है, अक्षरा अक्षरा उत्तम वाली, दिस इज अ सेपरेट टर्मिनोलॉजी. ये एक अलग सिस्टम है. श्री अरबिंदो का जो है, श्री अरबिंदो डज नॉट यूज दिस. व्हाट इज हिज टर्मिनोलॉजी? वो मनोमय, प्राणमय, अन्नमय, चैत्य पुरुष एंड वो जीव पुरुष कई बार बोलते हैं सेंट्रल बीइंग को. तो उसको रिकंसाइल करने का कोशिश करना चाहिए, बट फंडामेंटली गीता का जो एसेंशियल है ना, उस पर ध्यान देना चाहिए. एसेंशियल क्या है? पुरुषा प्रकृति इज द क्षर पुरुष. क्षर पुरुषा माने म्यूटेबल, जो चेंज होता है. इट इज दैट एस्पेक्ट ऑफ द पुरुषा विच इज इन द प्रकृति. इन द प्रकृति का क्या मतलब है कि वो अपने आप को प्रकृति के मूवमेंट से आइडेंटिफाई करता है एंड इट फील्स एज इफ इट इज द प्रकृति. एक्चुअली वो आइडेंटिफाइड नहीं है. जो पुरुष है वो कभी भी आइडेंटिफाई प्रकृति के साथ हो ही नहीं सकता. बट जो क्षर पुरुष है, द क्षर पुरुष, इट इज इन द प्रकृति, सो टू स्पीक. It is involved in the Prakriti. It is supporting the movements of Prakriti. Therefore, it feels as if it is the Prakriti only. तो हमारी पहली जो स्टेज होती है वो ये होती है कि हम क्षर पुरुषा में होते हैं. दिस इज द गीताज योगा. उससे हमको जाना होता है अक्षर पुरुषा में. अक्षर पुरुषा को गीता ब्राह्मी स्थिति भी कहती है एट द एंड ऑफ द सेकंड चैप्टर ऑफ द गीता, राइट? विच इज दैट साइलेंस.
Brahmi sthiti, I can relate to this part of Akshara Purusha, but I'm still not able to relate. As you said, the part of the Purusha which is involved and identified with the Prakriti.
Prakriti cannot function without the Purusha.
That I have
Without
understood.
him,
because,
I exist not. Without me, he is unmanifest.
So Purusha is the silent base or the immutable base on
Yes.
which the Prakriti
Yes.
dances.
Yes.
But when you say this, Purusha Prakriti is the Kshara Purusha.
तो
That
जब
confuses
प्रकृति
the
के
hell out of it.
मूवमेंट्स को एक उसको कॉन्शियसनेस देने के लिए, उसको इवॉल्व कराने के लिए, उसको सपोर्ट करने के लिए, द पुरुषा एंटर्स इनटू प्रकृति एंड एज इफ सो टू से लूजेस इटसेल्फ इन द प्रकृति. So to say, as if it can never really lose because it is free fundamentally.
No, that means, see, Sri Aurobindo says in Life Divine, Purusha is the static part of it, whereas Prakriti is the dynamic part of it.
But they are not separate, right? It is the Sankhya which makes Purusha and Prakriti separate.
They are not separate. They have come from the same.
Exactly.
Because
That means there is some interaction between them. There is some interspersing between Purusha and Prakriti, isn't it?
No, earlier, if you remember, you mentioned this also. That is Satchid Ananda, Satchid Shakti Ananda. So it is the Chit Shakti of the Satchid Shakti Ananda, Chit and Shakti then separating. And
it becomes the Purusha and Shakti becomes the Prakriti.
The Shakti becomes the Prakriti. So now the question is, what is this hybrid term Purusha Prakriti mean really?
कुछ नहीं है. It's just another synonym for Kshara Purusha. And what it basically means is that aspect, वो hybrid नहीं है. आप उसको वैसे मत लो in a derogatory sort of sense, ठीक है? It is because प्रकृति, वही जो मैंने मदर का सेंटेंस कोट किया ना, without him I exist not, without me he is unmanifest. आप वो पहले वाले पार्ट पे ध्यान दो उसके. Without him I exist not. जब तक पुरुषा प्रकृति के अंदर नहीं है किसी न किसी फॉर्म में, प्रकृति का अस्तित्व ही नहीं है.
बराबर. अच्छा, in that sense है वो ये.
In that sense. इट इज नेसेसरी. और इसके लिए आई शुड से जो अपना सीक्रेट नॉलेज कैंटो है सावित्री का 1.4, उसके अंदर 2 सेक्शंस हैं वेयर ही स्पीक्स ऑफ द ही एंड शी. उसको बार बार पढ़ने से आपको और वंडरफुल क्लैरिटी आएगी रिगार्डिंग दिस मैस्कुलाइन एंड फेमिनाइन एस्पेक्ट्स इन क्रिएशन.
Can you later on please
I will post the link to those
in this WhatsApp group.
I will do it.
Now you said this Purusha and Prakriti है, hybrid नहीं है ये, it is to be taken in the different sense. ठीक है, that helps. Thank you.
Most welcome. Purusha Prakriti is the Kshara Purusha. Standing back from it is the Akshara Purusha. Standing back from it. And again, बोलिए.
Kshara Purusha means it changes or decays, right?
Kshara means mutable, correct?
Mutable. So Chaitya Purusha, does it decay? Means, or is it constant?
Kshara
it will
Purusha.
Be constantly. Means psychic being, the Chaitya Purusha.
Psychic being does not decay.
Okay.
आपका क्वेश्चन ये है कि does the psychic being decay?
Yeah, psychic being is Khera means it is decay or perishes.
I am actually not sure कि कितना आप closely psychic being और क्षरा पुरुषा को ऐसे वो कर सकते हैं, because क्षरा simply means mutable, ठीक है? Psychic के अंदर कभी भी घटाव नहीं होता है. The psychic being is something which can only increase from life to life. इसीलिए आप जैसे ऋग्वेद का अगर पहला सूक्त देखें, वर्धमानम स्वेदमे, वर्धमानम जो कि बढ़ता जाता है, वहां पे अग्नि का नाम लेकर के कहा गया है, बट द वर्ड इज वर्धमानम. स्वेदमे मींस बेसिकली इट इज इंक्रीजिंग टुवर्ड्स इट्स ओन होम. एंड सी व्हाट हैपेंस विद द साइकिक बीइंग इज थ्रू द एक्सपीरियंसेस ऑफ लाइफ उसकी मैच्योरिटी बढ़ती है. उसकी मैच्योरिटी कभी नहीं घटती ना. एंड इज दिस मैच्योरिटी विच इज द एसेंस ऑफ द साइकिक बीइंग. So the psychic being itself can never decay. The answer is this.
And what will happen to the Monomaya Purusha when it changes? Will it?
मनोमय पुरुषा का ये होता है that Sri Aurobindo has told कि to the extent that the manomaya or our mind is under the influence of the psychic, it shares the immortality of the psychic. So हमने मान लीजिए अपने वही कि हमने अपने माइंड की जितनी नॉलेज को साइकिक के अराउंड इंटेग्रेट करके रखा है, दैट पार्ट विल बी कैरिड फॉरवर्ड इन फ्यूचर लाइफ्स.
Okay.
इन अदर वर्ड्स, अगर हम अपनी नॉलेज को, अपने माइंड की जो भी डेवलपमेंट है, अगर हम उसको ईगोइस्टिकली परस्यू कर रहे हैं फॉर आवर ओन ईगोइस्टिक सेटिस्फैक्शन, तो वो डिके और उसका वो डिसोल्यूशन होगा. ठीक है. बट अगर हम उसको डेवलप कर रहे हैं इन द सेंस कि दिस इज ऑल्सो एन ऑफरिंग टू द डिवाइन, राइट, देन दैट इंद्र पोर्स इनटू यू, और इंद्र की भी वृद्धि होती है कॉस्मिक लेवल पे, इंडिविजुअल की भी वृद्धि होती है. सो व्हेन बेसिकली योर माइंड इज इन अलाइनमेंट विद द सत्यम, द शिवम, द सुंदरम, विच इज द साइकिक बीइंग, तो फिर वो आगे वो उसकी कंटिन्यूटी होगी. इट विल बी कैरीड फॉरवर्ड. You understand what I mean?
Same with Pranamaya Purusha or
Yes.
Annamaya Purusha.
Yes, if there is an artist, इवन मदर तो कहती हैं कि जो हैंड्स थे किसी एक म्यूजिशियन के, बिथोवन या कोई था, वो इतने कॉन्शियस हो गए थे कि somebody they saw the hands of that person who after he had left his body coming to some other artist. तो इवन फिजिकल के अंदर कंटिन्यूटी हो जाती है, तो वाइटल और मेंटल की तो बात ही क्या है. आई विल शेयर दैट एग्जांपल. मदर हैज गिवन दैट एग्जांपल.
Okay.
मतलब एवरीबडी कुड अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट आई वाज सेइंग. वाइटल का जैसे संजीव भाई ने पूछा था, तो अगेन कोई आर्टिस्ट है मान लो, और उसका सारा जो वाइटल डेवलपमेंट है, इट इज सर्विंग द ट्रूथ, इट इज कमिंग फ्रॉम द ट्रूथ, इट इज बेस्ड ऑन ट्रूथ. ठीक है. इट इज नॉट सर्विंग इज ईगो. ठीक है. इट इज लुकिंग फॉर ब्यूटी, ट्रू ब्यूटी, जेन्युइन ब्यूटी. वो कैरी फॉरवर्ड होगा, चाहे वो म्यूजिक हो, चाहे कुछ भी हो, स्कल्प्टर हो, पेंटिंग हो, कुछ भी हो. दैट एस्पेक्ट ऑफ द वाइटल बीइंग विल बी कैरीड फॉरवर्ड. वॉरियर हो, लेट्स से कोई एक जेन्युइन वॉरियर है जो अपने देश के लिए लड़ रहा है या भगवान के लिए लड़ रहा है, यू नो, लाइक दैट. सो दैट पार्ट ऑफ दैट वाइटल डेवलपमेंट, इट वोंट बी एक्सटिंग्विश्ड, इट विल बी कैरीड फॉरवर्ड. जब जरूरत पड़ेगी तो वो वाइटल बीइंग आ जाएगा. मदर के बारे में इन हर एजेंडा वी रीड कि देयर वर 300 vital beings which had come together from previous lives in mother's case.
So that means, Anmol bhai, whatever skill which you are doing right now, if you're doing with the true this thing, as you said,
Exactly. In
those
alignment with
skill-
the truth, in alignment with
in
the
alignment
divine.
with the truth, or in
Yes.
alignment with your own swabhava,
Exactly.
right? Which
And इसमें भी
Gita
जो
talk-
एक word है ना, which is distinguished between the ego and this thing, self-giving. In an attitude of what can I offer to the divine, what can I offer to the universe, to my fellow beings, instead of just taking. जब वो,
बराबर.
हाँ, जब वो वही जो अनसेल्फिशनेस, जब वो सेल्फ गिविंग वाली चीज होती है, वो डिमांड नहीं होती, देन दैट ट्रूथ ब्लॉसम्स इन यू. व्हाट स्नब्स द डेवलपमेंट ऑफ द ट्रूथ इज दिस सेल्फिशनेस, दिस ईगोइस्टिक कि बस मैं क्या ले सकता हूं, उससे नहीं होता फिर.
Hmm.
राइट.
No, this is interesting because I never thought that skills would get transmitted over life.
They do, of course they do. मैंने जो एग्जांपल दिया कि some musicians hands, वो कोई बहुत ग्रेट था, आई थिंक बिथोवन, मदर ने एग्जांपल दिया है कि आफ्टर बिथोवन हैज पास्ड, सम अदर म्यूजिशियन, वो बिथोवन के हैंड्स उसके उसमें आ जाते थे, एंड दे वर प्लेइंग, एंड व्हेन ही प्लेड दे वर लाइक ही इज प्लेइंग सो ग्रेटली, व्हाट हैज हैपेंड टू हिम. सो इवन वो सटल फिजिकल जो है वो कैरी फॉरवर्ड हो जाता है.
Oh,
Yes.
subtle physical gets carried forward. Wow.
That's what this means, no?
That is why, yeah,
कि
but
उसका
that is
इवन
why
फिजिकल कॉन्शियसनेस इतना ज्यादा अलाइनमेंट में था ट्रुथ के साथ कि इवन वो फिजिकल कॉन्शियसनेस तक सरवाइव कर गया.
that is why when Sri Aurobindo and the mother say we exist in subtle physical and will, this is exactly what they have consciously withdrawn to that
अगर हम
subtle.
एक्सट्रीम एग्जांपल ले कि मदर जो है, सो शी इज देयर इन अ सटल फिजिकल बॉडी व्हिच इज टोटली सुप्रावेंटलाइज्ड.
हाँ,
दैट बॉडी इज इंटैक्ट. इट्स नॉट लाइक व्हेन मदर लेफ्ट दैट बॉडी तो उनका सारा बाकी सब डिसइंटीग्रेट हो गया. नथिंग लाइक दैट. ये एग्जांपल हेजिटेशन इसलिए होती है देने में बिकॉज दे आर अवतार्स, बट ऑन द अदर हैंड एवरी अवतार इज आल्सो सेटिंग एन एग्जांपल to what can happen in every human being. So
because it is stated, no, this what we are saying is stated by Sri Aurobindo that I exist in subtle physical, no?
yes,
A mother has written this, sorry.
yes. No, it is obvious, right?
Thank
एक
you.
एग्जांपल माइंड में आ रहा है, जैसे कपाली शास्त्री थे, आफ्टर ही हैड लेफ्ट हिज बॉडी, ओके,
Hmm.
सो मदर, ये श्रद्धालु जी ने दिया था एग्जांपल अपने क्लासेस में कि मदर वाज इंटरेस्टेड इन संस्कृत मंत्रास एंड संस्कृत at some point when she was undergoing the yoga of the body, cells wala. So Kapali Shastri came to her, and the way Shradhalu was saying, he kind of just poured all his Sanskrit knowledge into mother, and mother got all that knowledge directly through Kapali. तो अगर कपाली का वो माइंड डिसइंटेग्रेट हो गया होता, दैट मेंटल कॉन्शियसनेस, आफ्टर ही लेफ्ट हिज बॉडी, तो वो संस्कृत की नॉलेज मदर में कैसे पोर करते?
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Does it make sense?
Yeah, no, it now starts making a lot of sense because then that means this explains this unexplained part कि किसी को अगर संस्कृत नहीं आती हो पर वो ऑटोमेटिक संस्कृत थोड़ा बहुत भी अपने आप
I was
समझ में
actually hearing just
हाँ
recently from Anjali ji, she's not in this session, but Bibek Debroy, you know,
हाँ
उन्होंने पूरा
हाँ
महाभारत
या
ट्रांसलेट किया.
yeah
Yeah. He was employed by the government of India to do that.
correct
She was saying कि वो 35, 36 की एज में he was lamenting sort of when he came in the Pondi Lit Fest कि I started learning Sanskrit very late. But she was saying कि, you know, I met him personally, I knew him personally, and he used to tell कि Sanskrit just came to him. तो वो came कैसे हो गया? Maybe, you know, past lives का वो होगा, और वो just आ गया सीधा का सीधा when the time came, when the mental being. It may be, I'm kind of guessing here, but this is striking me right now कि वो पुराना डेवलपमेंट जो ऑर्गेनाइज था अराउंड द साइकिक, इट कम्स बैक. एंड अगेन इफ इट इज नेसेसरी इट विल कम बैक. इन एवोल्यूशन एंड इन एवरीथिंग, यू नो, नेसेसरी वाली बात होता है. जो जरूरी नहीं है वो नहीं आएगा. मे बी सम ऑफ माई डेवलपमेंट विल बी यूजफुल फॉर मी इन अ फ्यूचर लाइफ. So, you know, one has to broaden one's perspective of one's evolution and think in terms of multiple lifetimes.
yeah
Right?
yeah
Okay.
thank you so much.
No, most welcome. The psychic being evolves, so it is not the immutable, very clearly. Psychic being evolves मतलब increases. कहीं पे भी मैंने ये नहीं पढ़ा था psychic being devolves. I have never read it. वो क्यों घटाव हो ही नहीं सकता, वर्धमानम. उसके अंदर केवल वृद्धि होती है. क्यों? क्योंकि थ्रू ऑल दीज एक्सपीरियंसेस ऑफ लाइफ, पॉजिटिव और नेगेटिव तो माइंड वाइटल के लिए होता है. फॉर द साइकिंग इट इज जस्ट एक्सपीरियंस. थ्रू ऑल दोज एक्सपीरियंसेस इट ग्रोज. ऑफ कोर्स, यू नो, इफ इट्स अ डिवोशन का कुछ है, नॉलेज का कुछ है, इस तरह की कोई चीज है, थ्रू दैट इट विल मेक अ स्पर्ट इन इट्स ग्रोथ. एकदम से उसके अंदर एक वो आएगी, बट इट ग्रोज, इट नेवर डिक्रीजेस. It only, which is why Sri Aurobindo clarifies that once you have attained the human birth, it is not possible for you to go back into an animal birth. It is a part of your vital being which may go into it, or a fragment of your vital being, or the full vital being. Usually it is a fragment of the vital being. But the psychic being itself cannot ever go back to a form lesser than the human once it has attained the human form. It won't fit into it. It has become too large for the animal form. Is it clear?
And Anmol bhai, you mentioned Gita
It's
talks of
9:01,
two
so like
prakriti.
4-5 minutes we have
Yeah,
to.
two prakriti will be para and apara, right? That's
Apara
what.
and para, yes.
Yeah, okay. Just
They are
wanted
mentioned
to
in the
know.
7th chapter of the Gita.
Yeah.
The psychic being evolves, so it is not the immutable. The psychic being is especially the soul of the individual. In fact, जो para prakriti hai, that is what is called the divine mother. I might as well just say those 3 shlokas for, I mean, the sake of the completeness of this letter, the study of this letter. 7.4 से शुरू होता है. भूमिरापो नलो वायुः खम मनो बुद्धिरेव च अहंकार इति यम में भिन्नाः प्रकृतिर अष्टधा अपरे यमितस्त्वन्याम प्रकृतिम विद्धि में पराम जीवभूताम महाबाहो ययेदम धार्यते जगत एतद योनीनि भूतानि सर्वाणीत्युपधारय अहम कृत्स्नस्य जगतः प्रभवः प्रलयस्तथा. तो जो थर्ड वर्स का फर्स्ट क्वार्टर है ना, एतद योनीनि भूतानि. सो दिस परा प्रकृति इज द वूम्ब ऑफ द यूनिवर्स. दैट इज व्हाट इज कॉल्ड इन इंटेग्रल योगा एज द डिवाइन मदर. तंत्र में उसको आद्य शक्ति बोलते हैं, ऋग्वेद में उसको अदिति बोलते हैं, लाइक दैट. ओके, ये सब श्री अरविंदो के लेटर्स में है. आई मीन आई हैव लर्नड ऑल दिस फ्रॉम हिज लेटर्स ओनली. We'll just finish this. We have like 3-4 minutes remaining. The psychic being is especially the soul of the individual, evolving in the manifestation, the individual prakriti, and taking part in the evolution. Yeah. It is that spark of the divine fire that grows behind the mind, vital, and physical as the psychic being until it is able to transform the prakriti of ignorance into a prakriti of knowledge. तब तक वो रुकेगा नहीं. Till then the psychic being's purpose is not fulfilled until it has divinized the nature, until it has transformed the prakriti of ignorance into the prakriti of knowledge. These things are not in the Gita, but we cannot limit our knowledge by the points in the Gita. गीता में साइकिक बीइंग को जो टर्म है परा प्रकृति जीव भूता, दिस इज द टर्म 7.5 में आता है, is the soul of the individual evolving in the manifestation, the individual prakriti. So it helps in the evolution of the prakriti itself. उसके खुद के अंदर एक वो evolution होता है. Psychic being also evolves and taking part in the evolution very clearly. It is that spark of the divine fire. यहाँ पे divine को fire बोल रहे हैं, right? We can call him आनंद. जब वो चित तपस, सच चित तपस आनंद है ना, तो जब वो तपस वाला पार्ट लेते हैं, then we call him the fire, right? आनंद वाला एस्पेक्ट लेते हैं तो फिर वो आनंद कहते हैं. लाइफ डिवाइन में पेज 278 पे द साइकिक बीइंग इज इक्वेटेड टू आनंद, कि अपर हेमिस्फीयर में जिसको आनंद कहते हैं, लोअर हेमिस्फीयर में उसको साइकिक बीइंग कहते हैं, राइट? सो या, इट इज दैट स्पार्क ऑफ द डिवाइन फायर दैट ग्रोज बिहाइंड द माइंड, वाइटल एंड फिजिकल, as the psychic being until it is able to transform the prakriti of ignorance into a prakriti of knowledge. What will be the characteristic of the prakriti of knowledge? ये गुणों के सेंस में जो वर्ड्स हैं कि जो तमस है, the inertia, it is transformed into shama, stability, that peace, complete peace. Rajas is transformed into tapas. Tapas is pure energy without any disturbance which comes because of rajas. And sattva is transformed into jyotihi. ये जो मैं बोल रहा हूं, this is from the beginning of Letters on Yoga part 1. ये वहां पे mentioned है. मुझे मिल जाएगा. I'll share it on the group also. It is useful to know this, right? So that is the transformation of the prakriti in the language of the gunas as given in the Gita.
So para prakriti jiva bhuta, we had studied this before also, Anmol bhai.
para prakriti jiva bhuta, we had mentioned this term earlier also. So
In
tamas,
psychic being only, I think.
yeah, tamas is transformed into shama, peace, pure and absolute and that stable peace. Okay. Rajas into tapas, which is pure energy. वो एनर्जी फ्लो कर रही है लेकिन उसके मूवमेंट में कोई डिस्टर्बेंस, कोई मतलब डिस्टॉर्शन कुछ नहीं है. इट इज जस्ट प्योर फ्लो ऑफ कॉन्शियस एनर्जी. दैट इज तपस. एंड सत्व, विच इज मेंटल लाइट, विच इज नॉट कंप्लीट. माइंड इज नॉलेज, माइंड इज इग्नोरेंस सीकिंग फॉर नॉलेज. सुपर माइंड इज नॉलेज इन पोजेशन ऑफ इटसेल्फ. माइंड इज इग्नोरेंस सीकिंग फॉर नॉलेज. ये परिभाषा है श्री अरबिंदो की दी हुई. सुपर माइंड इज नॉलेज in possession of itself. So that jyotihi is basically the supramental light. So that half light, half darkness, half knowledge, half ignorance of the mind gets converted into full knowledge. There is nothing that you do not know which you wish to know. वो total omniscience आ जाती है. Vital के अंदर omnipotence, physical के अंदर immortality. That way. You leave the body when you wish to. Well, these are the final goals of the supramental yoga. You can even change your body at will. You can create your own body for yourself through the supramental power. वो सब बहुत बहुत बात की बातें हैं. We are reading the basics. It's 9:06, 9:07, 1 hour. Anybody has any question, doubt, sharing anything?
So Anmol,
Yes, tell me, Shivali.
So when we say psychic being is evolving,
Yeah.
Does that mean that as your vital mind and body is purified,
Yeah.
the influence also takes over these three parts?
Yes, exactly. What do we mean by purification in these things? So in the mind, the purification will be defined as what Sri Aurobindo has said. Rejection of the mind's ideas, opinions, preferences, habits, constructions, so that the true knowledge may find free room in a silent mind. तो माइंड के अंदर वो जो ईगोइस्टिक एलिमेंट है ना, मेरा आइडिया, मेरा कंसेप्शन, वो जब हटना शुरू हो जाए, एंड व्हेन द mind starts surrendering to the divine through the psychic, that is the purification of the mind. Okay. वाइटल का प्यूरिफिकेशन क्या है फंडामेंटली? द रिमूवल ऑफ डिजायर, लस्ट, ग्रीड, ऑल दो षड रिपुज, काम क्रोध लोभ मोह मद मत्सर्य, उनका रिमूवल। ये 6 तो ट्रेडिशनल में बोले जाते हैं। श्री अरविंदो का दी मदर के सेकंड चैप्टर में, दैट हमने एक बार मदर की आवाज में सुना था ऑन द सेशन, आज तो ज्यादा हो जाएगा, बट यू नो ऑल दोस थिंग्स, रिजेक्शन ऑफ द डिमांड्स, डिजायर्स, क्रेविंग्स, ऑल दैट इज द प्यूरिफिकेशन ऑफ द वाइटल which happens when it comes under the influence of the psychic. सिमिलरली बॉडी के अंदर जो तमस है, जो रिजिडिटी है, जो इलनेस वगैरह है, उसका रिमूवल होना, वो जो ड्रॉस है फिजिकल के अंदर, द रिमूवल ऑफ दैट ड्रॉस बेसिकली। सो द बॉडी itself becomes more conscious, more flexible, more healthy, even more radiant, like that. तमस कम हो जाएगी।
So basically, evolution of the psychic being means the more of it that comes forward.
Yes. The more
Right?
the psychic being
More-
becomes stronger and mature, and the more it is able to come forward and dominate the mind, vital, and body.
Okay, because psychic itself is divinity. So when we
Yes.
say it is evolving, it means
Yes.
it's able to
Yes.
reflect.
Yes. So
Yeah.
so the increase of psychic being is the increase of the divine things in us.
Yeah.
The increase of the truth in us, the increase of genuine beauty in us, the increase in the true sense of the love for good, and the increase of goodness in us. That is like one thing. The increase of bhakti, all these are signs of the increase or the coming forward of the psychic being. Hello?
Yeah, got it. Yeah.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I have one question.
हाँ बोलिए।
Monomoy Purusha is does it survive death? Means because Monomoy Purusha is the prime minister, as it is mentioned here. If it is means through Monomoy Purusha, we have to go towards psychic.
That's what I said earlier कि क्या होता है? Okay, to answer your question, so when you leave the body, ठीक है? So the Prakriti gets dissolved into the universal Prakriti. Okay. Manomaya Purusha means that developed mental being. So उस mental being का जितना development is around the truth, let's say idealism, ठीक है? You have become a flame of idealism in your life. That has become part of your mental personality. That will not be extinguished because it is something in consonance with the truth in you. वो carry forward होगा. You understand?
Okay.
हाँ, जो हाँ, basically the pursuit of truth, the pursuit of the divine, the pursuit of goodness, the pursuit of beauty in the true sense, relentlessly and without any compromise. This is what leads to the ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन ऑफ आवर पार्ट्स ऑफ प्रकृति। और उनके अंदर वो वाला जो ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन आ गया बिकॉज ऑफ uncompromising surrender to the truth, uncompromising allegiance to the truth, all that is carried forward. So focus should be on truth. जो शोभन का मेन वर्ड है ना, truth consciousness. This should be the watchword, truth. Psychic being satyam shivam sundaram. Am I doing something bad? अंदर से एक आवाज आती है, नहीं, this is something wrong, I shouldn't do this. But sometimes we snub it and then we can fall into a hole.
So Anmol bhai, as you said, if I were to elaborate this part to that explanation, that anything built around the psychic will stay.
Yes, exactly.
Anything built around ego will dissolve.
Exactly.
So that anything built around ego will go back to its own worlds.
Ego is the
Mental,
प्रकृति
vital.
का पार्ट है ना, तो all
हाँ, वो
that
प्रकृति
वो डिसॉल्व हो
हाँ,
जाएगा प्रकृति में।
यूनिवर्सल वाइटल में चला जाएगा,
Exactly.
यूनिवर्सल फिजिकल में चला
Exactly.
जाएगा, यूनिवर्सल मेंटल में चला जाएगा. But as you said, if you build those values, the 12 values in mother's symbol,
Yes,
जो है,
might as
if
well
that,
mention them.
I don't have the. I'll
Sincerity,
put the picture.
humility, gratitude, perseverance, aspiration, receptivity, progress, courage, goodness, generosity, equality, and progress.
हाँ. So now, if you build all that around your psychic being, that is never going to get dissolved. It will continue life after life because psychic being continues life after life, and it has
Exactly.
evolved through these values. If I
Exactly.
were to rephrase this, yeah.
Exactly. एंड हाँ, थ्रू दोज क्वालिटीज जो आपके अंदर इवन मेंटल डेवलपमेंट हुआ है या जो वाइटल डेवलपमेंट, फिजिकल डेवलपमेंट, वो भी कैरी फॉरवर्ड हो.
हाँ.
The focus should be on developing those qualities and then bringing forward the psychic being through genuine bhakti, genuine self-giving, and all that.
Yeah, I've just pasted that picture of the symbol, so it's there on WhatsApp group.
ठीक है. Shall we close with silence? 1 minute silence?
Yes.
Yes.